What's up, guys? Vince Reddy here, talking about Elemental under freaking 110-degree weather. Ain't that something? I feel like Ember. And you know what's crazy? Ember kind of relates to me in many ways. We're about to get more into that. But I just watched Elemental. Did I like it? Of course I like it. I'm Vince Ryder. Of course, I freaking love movies. Everything, every single one of them. Shoot, I even championed Artemis Fowl and freaking that Mobius movie. They're still bangers to me. Why? I don't know. Maybe something's wrong with me. Maybe there's a problem that I'm dealing with. Maybe maybe I need to see a therapist. But for God's sakes, I enjoy this movie. I enjoyed it the same way I enjoyed the Ladybug movie a few weeks ago. The same way I enjoyed, the Spider-Verse. Kind of crazy. I'm not comparing them to, okay? Chill. Okay, come on now. I'm not comparing. Some of you are like, how dare you? You're saying Elemental is like neck to neck with freaking Spider-Verse. No, I'm not. I'm totally not. I'm not. But yeah, yeah, let's talk about Elemental. Just giving you my thoughts about it. First off, this movie is beautiful, which is not a surprise. Pixar just continues to slam the brakes when it comes down to these different animation and, ideas, and also the ideas of the element characters themselves. In a freaking world where it's made by elements, the cloud people, the mud people, the earth people, don't cancel me. Okay, sorry, earth people. But the water people and the fire people, that's basically what the story is about. Is it about interracial relationship? In some cases, I guess it is, because for the longest time, I knew that this, for the longest time, this story, now thinking about it, kind of relates to me, because it's like almost talking about me. I said like in the beginning that I feel like my life is sort of centered almost the same way as Ember, because Ember wants to fall love. I don't know if the word falling in love ever came into her head until she met the water guy. Because, the family, especially, I don't know who it was, either the mother or the father, said something like, oh, gotta marry a fire individual, or maybe the dead grandmother in the beginning, or something like that, during the flashback, which is like, oh, that's how fire people pass away? Okay, it went there. I'm telling you, it went through a couple adult themes, which I never thought this movie would have, being a Pixar movie, but it's not a surprise. Most movies that are animated are usually nowadays for adults or teens or something like that, because this movie itself is sort of about adult life, about growing up, choosing your path. You don't need to actually, work in your pop's, bodega or something. You can work at somewhere else in your life if you choose to. But understand that a lot of it has consequences. Man, that sounds so relatable. That sounds way too relatable now thinking about it, because it's Ember as, and the water guy especially, but specifically Ember as, you grew up. You learn a couple things before you grow up. Controlling your tantrum, how to actually, learning from your father, or actually learning from yourself as well, learning who you love, or learning what's real or not, or understanding the world that you're living. It is about sort of growing up, about the life that you are when it comes down to being an adult, especially falling in love with the water guy being Wade, and also the fire girl. I keep calling her fire girl, lava girl, but her name is Ember. And their love chemistry, even though it didn't really catch up to it, because I mostly see them still as friends. And it's hard to find chemistry when it comes down to anthropomorphic elements, because if it was humans, it would be different, especially for Ember being literally a fire girl. So if she touches the water guy, Wade, it just kind of, he evaporates. And also a bunch of other things, like touching the clouds, touching the earth, they will go on fire for sure. Just a slight pat, hug, or something like that. So in some ways, it's really hard to find chemistry at all, whoever Ember talks to, other than, her parents, other than the people that are mostly are the fire people, or pretty much of her tribe, or of her, of her element. Because it's mostly like surrounding Ember. But the thing is that it's more better to have a character that that you don't die when you get close to it. Like the whole time I'm just like worried when she was walking through like the city, and I was like worried that she was gonna bump into like a a, a group of kids that are like basically earth or water and would immediately evaporate this group of kids. Like I was just kind of worried that it would go to that dark scenery, even though maybe it's a cartoon, so they technically didn't die. But would they die if that was the case? Let's like, what are the possibilities at all? And also, what is like, I can imagine how tiring that is. Just being a person that you're just all of a sudden a person that's made out of fire, and well, you basically just pretty much have to deal with the cards that you're dealt with as a fire person. But for this movie, it's not about Ember wanting to be any other element. She is proud to actually be her own element. But also, she has a hard time dealing with that, especially the tantrum, and also like this water person that she fell in love with and couldn't admit it because wants to fulfill the father's goals, and that's something that relates to me. It's like fulfilling your family's goals of actually running the shop or being someone that you have to be with. My parents always wanted me to be with someone of my own race. They always want me to be with someone that is Asian, but for a while, I always never was kind of like that person. I always fall in love with other people that are not my race at any sense. It usually goes either like either black and white for me, because that's kind of like the types of people that I usually am friends with and I fall in love with and pretty much I adapt with. And pretty much it's kind of funny too, because I am half Asian, and pretty much this movie itself, like seeing Wade as being a person that is probably white, maybe not, and also from the creators of this movie or the directors, is like this is Ember's kind of like inspiration to them, and the person that I believe is like the director is like what is he, like Chinese or Asian, which I thought that Ember would be Indian or some kind of like that descent, because of like where they're from and the music and the but I didn't realize Asian would come into that mindset at all. Maybe it's Asian, maybe it's like Southeast Asian, and I should know I'm Southeast Asian. So like it's almost like these two are like my parents in a ways. Because I'm seeing a story of my family of how they met together, even though my family preferred me to marry someone that is Asian because the majority of my family is Asian, and then that's kind of like I don't know, this is not about me, but it relates to me. This story kind of relates to me in that sense, where it's a part of that. I guarantee you that, if you live in America, because that's what the city is based in, Elemental Land, is basically you fall in love whoever you want to fall in love with. It's your decision. You can be whoever you want to be. Whatever makes you happy, you do you. And maybe that's what the movie is saying, but in a kind of weird way that they put it. And I guess that's what I like about the movie. There's some complexities and stories that I just don't get behind, especially covering the wall, or like how they met, how Wayne and Ember met is kind of like unusual. Like there was no like I know it doesn't need to be like a very lovey-dovey kind of like scene for them to meet at first place. They started as people that they don't like each other, and then they move on to like, oh, they kind of like each other, but they also like Ember didn't really like to be around Waterboy, but has to in order to save the shop. And then it moves on to actually something that they sort of fall in love with and helping each other out, and then the love starts. And it's kind of like interesting how especially seeing their own families, and especially understanding a bit of like Wade's story about like his father passing away or something like that, and also just how like it's almost beginning to be seen by that through Ember, as Ember's father is beginning to be sick and old and has to retire, and pretty much has the shop rely to someone else, and most of all it's going to be Ember. But man, especially the ending, I never thought it would really go that. I don't know what it is. It was supposed to be a sad scene, but it didn't really capture me as sad as it should be. But either way, it was like, wow, I didn't know they were actually go for that kind of like scenery as well. Even though I've seen this kind of trope in many other animation films already, the ending itself, and I'm not gonna spoil it, but it was like it was something that I didn't predict it, even though I probably should. But I just that's most of all there was most parts of this movie that I enjoyed more than the cons. Which the cons is like the story was not cohesive and the characters that I didn't feel much of it in the beginning specifically, and I don't get like what is really the messaging behind it. But overall, I love the world that they live in. I love the chemistry later on and the worlds that they go into, and just I just find this place in Elemental City so interesting. The mechanics, the the where the electric people comes in, or if there is electric people, there's basically cloud people, but just like there's so many aspects of these different elements. These four elements, they can have their world their own. Like I wish that Ember would be friends with each other of these elements. Understanding where that kid came from, the kid, the Earth kid that usually flirts with Ember, like where did he come from? How did he end up here? Or like understanding the Wind people. Are we gonna get somebody from the Wind? Like, are we gonna get a little backstory behind Wayne's boss of like who she is? Like, there's so many possibilities of just like Elemental, because the city's so interesting, and I enjoyed that aspect so much. Especially this scene where Ember and Wayne actually went to like a place surrounded by crystals, and I just like that visual, like that their abilities to actually make magic through what they have as being water or fire, and also water and fire fall in love. Especially, that's another con, is that I just don't understand how Ember would actually be relatable. I mean, I know relatable, a little bit relatable to me personally, but what, like, especially how she's like I understand that she's not human, of course, them not being human, but I feel like that would be a better choice of just like understanding their story, even though it would be realistic and it wouldn't be elemental, it would just be something else. But like her not touching anything, and not I feel like touch is the biggest thing when it comes down for a relationship. Just touching their hand, their face, and understanding when it comes down, if you're making a romantic scene, it would adapt that. And they touch, but it just didn't feel right to me. It felt like there could have been something wrong. There was a bit of worry, and it feels like it's already late at this point. Like like I don't know. I don't know how they would fix that scene, and I'm not really complaining at all. I kind of like it, but I feel weird about it. You know what I mean? If that makes sense, because like how's that like so freaking water guy is not evaporated? Why? Because Ember's not that strong or something? Like what's going on here? I just and it seems like that's just what I see through the story between two of them when it comes down to their chemistry, because it just didn't feel right. But it's supposed to be a chemistry that they're supposed to fall in love, and it kind of work in some ways, but it I don't know, it's weird. It's like we didn't get enough time to know who Water Guy is, or who he is, or something like that. It felt a little bit rush in the way I put it, even though, like, I don't know, there's many pace and there's many patterns. There's a pattern here. There's this part where I don't feel their chemistry, but this part I feel their chemistry. So it's kind of strange in the romantic sense, but this wasn't never meant to be. Maybe it was meant to be a romantic movie, but not really, due to how there's so much interesting content through this. Some scenes where it's like, oh, this is jam-packed action. This is a very, tricky scene right here. How is Ember gonna save the mother? How is Ember gonna save the shop, the father? What's gonna happen in this situation and stuff like that. So there was enough content to go by. But man, this movie can go either way. But other than that, I guess I, kind of enjoyed the movie. I kind of enjoyed, it's just that I wish there was a bit more. A bit more of the backstory, or just a bit more of the other characters and something like that. And I feel like I just only got like a little, a little piece of that, even though it was a perfect amount. If that makes sense. I'm not making sense. But then again, I'm not a freaking movie reviewer. I'm just here to tell you that this movie was not bad. It was not bad. I mean, I guess, I get over hype. I was about to review this, like, really, really, like, sooner. And, guarantee I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 if I did. Because I tend to do that after I watch movies. Like, yo, this is hype. This is, oh my God, so good. But now thinking about it, it's like, okay, it's okay, I guess. It's okay. I wasn't laughing on most of the scenes. I wasn't crying. So just like Ruby Gillman, yeah, it's okay, I guess. I don't know. I liked it. I enjoyed the world. I enjoy, the characters and their character and sense. I feel like there's so many other things that could have made it better. Other than that, yeah, that's my review for Elemental. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see ya. One love and a peace.